Over 60? Discover the 4 touching frozen foods to avoid and 4 life-changing choices to embrace. Martha Keller's heart dropped like the first heavy snow of winter, and as she stood in the frozen food aisle, she felt the chill seep deep into her bones. It was a different kind of cold this year, the kind that didn't just stem from the winter air. It wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket, heavy with the absence of her family. For years, the smell of baking bread and simmering sauces filled her modest kitchen, echoing with laughter and love. Now, the silence was so deafening that even her own thoughts felt like intruders. The loneliness of this pandemic winter had become unbearable. Her son's voice rang in her ears, passionate and caring. "Mom, please, just try some of these frozen meals. They're convenient, and you can still eat healthy." To Martha, each box of frozen food represented a betrayal. The busy lives of her adult children pushed aside the comfort of family dinners filled with steaming pots and shared stories. With each microwave beep, she could hear the traditions slipping away, leaving her feeling like less of a mother, less of a grandmother. At the church potluck, she stirred her famous beef stew, its aroma dancing with memories of family gatherings. But when the congregation filled the hall, it felt emptier than ever. A hunger for connection gnawed at her as she looked around. She could see her neighbors sharing recipes and laughter, the bond of community. But as everyone indulged in made-from-scratch dishes, Martha clung to the hope that perhaps she could make a difference. That night, she leaned back in her chair, whispering a tiny prayer, a plea for guidance. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Martha made a decision. She'd explore these frozen meals that threatened to take away the essence of her cooking. She filled her cart with gaudy packaged items promising happiness and health. Yet, as she plucked each box from the shelf, the weight of despair sat heavy on her shoulders. They were cold and uninviting, mirroring her life. Then the shake came, the pang of fear that hit when her son presented his plan to move her south, away from everyone and everything she loved. "Mom, it's just easier if you're somewhere warm," he said, exasperated. A tightness crept into her chest. What about the meals that shaped their family? What about the traditions she cherished? In that moment, she poured her heart out, feeling something shift. "Don't you see? These recipes are our history," she cried. Tears blurred her vision, the raw emotion of it all spilling over like a forgotten pot on the stove. As their words echoed around her, she longed to find a balance between her beloved past and a more contemporary existence. The kitchen, the heart of their home, felt distant. Martha found a thread of hope at the community center, where cooking classes beckoned. Here, she would blend her passion for home cooking with modern twists, harboring the desire to teach the next generation the power of home-cooked love. But faced with the looming question, would they embrace her attempts to rekindle what felt lost, or would they continue to retreat into convenience? The stakes had never felt higher, and uncertainty flickered in her mind like a candle fighting against the wind, leaving her yearning to know if the heart of her family would find a way back home, around her table, once more. Martha woke the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose. The sun broke through her kitchen window, casting golden rays across the untouched countertop. She looked around, the familiar scent of cinnamon lingering in the air from last night's late baking session. Maybe it was time to create something new, to blend tradition with a sprinkle of modern flair. With her apron tied securely, she began gathering ingredients from her pantry. Those frozen boxes may have been the suggestion from her son, but they wouldn't cook themselves. She poured herself a cup of coffee, took a deep breath, and flicked on her radio. As the melodies filled her home, she almost felt her heart beat in rhythm with the music, a reminder that she was alive, that she could still share these moments. Her first project was a twist on the classic beef stew. Instead of sticking to the usual recipe, she used the Instant Pot her daughter gifted her last Christmas. Embracing the future while holding on to the past felt liberating. As she chopped the vegetables, she closed her eyes, imagining her family bustling in the kitchen with her, each voice adding to the symphony of sounds that once made her home alive. But what if they don't appreciate this new version? A voice in her head taunted. She shook it away as easily as she would slough off excess flour from her hands. This was not just cooking. This was about connection, about filling the emotional void that had settled in her heart. Hours later, scents wafted through the house, enveloping her in warmth. The stew bubbled away like a promise while she prepared a simple side of fresh, crusty bread. Martha's heart raced as she plated the meal, envisioning her family gathering together, laughter spilling over just like the stew on the edge of its pot. When evening came, she sent her children a group text, inviting them over for dinner. "I have a surprise for you. Come hungry," she typed, her heart a flutter of excitement and apprehension. Would they recognize what she had tried to do? Did they realize how much she needed them to show up? An hour passed, and her mind shifted from excitement to doubt. Had she gone too far with the updates? The hum of the microwave echoed through the stillness. Finally, the doorbell rang. Her heart leaped into her throat. Martha opened the door to find her children standing there, arms laden with desserts and flowers. There was a burst of joy in her heart. They hadn't forgotten her love of tradition after all. "How was that stew, Mom?" her son asked with a grin, his eyes sparkling with mischief. "Different," she admitted, but in her voice was the warmth of history, her history, their history. As they settled around the table, sharing stories, laughter, and bits of their lives, for the first time in a long time, the gap felt smaller as dinner progressed. She watched them dive into her stew, and a sense of pride swelled within like the aroma that filled the air. "Mom, this is actually wonderful," her daughter said, her eyes lighting up as she reached for another helping. Martha felt herself breathe again, but just as they settled into easy conversation, the phone buzzed on the table, and her daughter's eyes widened, revealing the words on the screen. "Mom, I just got a job opportunity." In another state, the air thickened, silence swallowing their laughter. Would this be another distance to bear, another layer between them? As her heart sank, Martha wondered how to keep her family close while the world continued to pull them apart. And in that moment, she realized that this story wasn't finished, yet the thread of connection was still there, ready to weave itself into something beautiful. What was she willing to do to bring them back together? The answers felt just out of reach. Martha stared at her daughter, the air heavy with tension. She felt like a balloon barely tethered, moments away from popping. "Are you serious?" Her voice wavered, trembling between disbelief and dread. Her family's laughter echoed in her mind, a stark contrast to the uncertainty unfolding before her. Her daughter, Emily, held the phone tighter, as if it would give her strength. "I know it's sudden, Mom. They want me to start next month." Martha's mind raced. A job out of state? It felt like an anchor pulling at the precious moments they had just rekindled around the dinner table. Could she really lose that warmth again? But why so far? The question slipped out before she could bite her tongue, a pang of desperation lacing her words. Emily's brows knitted together, sadness mixing with determination in her eyes. "It's a great opportunity. I want to do this." "Of course, you do," Martha replied, her voice softening as she looked at her daughter's hopeful expression. But inside, a storm brewed. The idea of distance, of her little girl leaving again, felt like stepping into a frigid winter night. She started, struggling to find the words. "I thought we were finally finding our way back to each other. Please don't let this job come between us again." Her son, Mark, who had been quietly chewing on a piece of bread, suddenly interjected. "Hey, this can be good for us, too. We get to visit New York more often, right? I mean, it's not like you're leaving forever, Em." His tone was light, but Martha could hear the underlying tension. Emily shot him a look. "You're making it sound like a vacation. This is big." Martha's heart sank deeper. They were teetering on the edge of something so fragile. What if she hesitated, drawing them both closer with the weight of her words? What if we find ways to keep our bond strong? Like regular video calls, family dinners over Zoom? Emily's gaze shifted, unspoken emotions flickering through her eyes. "I want that. But it will be different." "Different how?" "You'll always be my daughter. Just because of distance doesn't mean we can't share moments." Martha felt the heat rising in her chest as she fought against the potential heartbreak brewing inside her. Mark leaned back, crossing his arms thoughtfully. "Mom, you keep saying we'll make it work. What do you want us to do?" He was trying to balance empathy with practicality. Martha took a breath, steadied herself. I want you both to tell me what you need. What do you want for this family moving forward? The atmosphere thickened with vulnerability as her children looked at each other, contemplating their own fears and aspirations. Finally, Emily broke the silence. I don't want to lose what we've built tonight, Mom. How do we go forward without leaving the past behind? Martha felt the tears well up. We have to find new ways to share moments, to celebrate life as changes together. Change is going to happen whether we want it or not, but that doesn't mean we have to lose our connection. As the words left her mouth, it hit her. This wasn't just about her daughter's job. It was about them adapting to the changing world around them, the way people, times, and circumstances shifted. But what if I'm not ready for this change? Emily whispered, a tear escaping down her cheek. Martha felt her own heart breaking at the sight of her daughter's uncertainty. I understand, and we need to face it together. You don't have to be alone in this. A flicker of hope sparked amid their uncertainty. As they shared their fears and dreams, laughter began to trickle back, and it was like the first rays of sunlight breaking through the clouds. But as they settled back into the warmth of their meal, a new message dinged on the table. Martha glanced down at the screen, and dread sank in again. The name she saw sent a chill down her spine, an unexpected face from the past. What would this message bring? Would it complicate everything when Martha was finally starting to find her footing again? As she stared, her mind raced at the possibilities, terrified yet curious. Martha's breath hitched in her throat, her hands trembling slightly as she picked up the phone. The name on the screen wasn't unfamiliar. It was one she had hoped to leave behind. David. Memories rushed back like a tide, pulling her under. She hadn't expected to hear from him after all these years. Mom, what's wrong? Emily's voice pierced through her thoughts. In the questioning gaze of her daughter, she saw both concern and confusion. Mark leaned forward, the tension tightening around their little table like a noose. Martha swallowed hard. It's an old friend, she stammered, her own voice sounding distant and shaky. She almost laughed at how absurd that sounded. David had been more than a friend. He had been a significant part of her life, a chapter she thought she had closed for good. Is everything okay? Mark pressed, a note of unease threading through his question. I don't know yet. She forced a smile, but the warmth behind it was fading, replaced by a cold pit in her stomach. Do you want me to look at it? Emily offered, her brows furrowed again with concern. No, Martha said sharply, perhaps harsher than intended. She felt a rush of guilt as she saw the hurt flicker in Emily's eyes. I'm sorry. I need a moment. As she stood up and moved to the kitchen, Martha's thoughts spiraled. David's name had come with a rush of memories, some good, some painful. They had shared dreams, adventures, and laughter. But they had also shared heartbreak, and it felt like opening a door she'd successfully locked away. Mom. Emily's voice echoed through the house, the warmth of their earlier connection hanging in the air like a ghost. Did I do something wrong? Not at all, sweetheart. Martha called back, forcing herself to hold back the flood of memories for just a moment. Emotions were bubbling up, and she didn't want them to bubble over like a boiling pot. With shaky hands, she finally opened the message, and her heart dropped as she read the words. Martha, I need to talk about us. Can we meet? It's important. A knot tightened in her chest. The past and present collided like a storm brewing on the horizon. Did she want to open that door? Did she want to risk everything she had just begun to rebuild? Martha stood staring at the kitchen wall, holding the phone tightly. Emily and Mark were back at the table, glancing at her with worried expressions. They had finally begun to heal, and now here was the specter of her past creeping in, threatening to shatter the fragile home they were rebuilding together. Mom. Mark's voice cut through her thoughts again. Are you okay? I don't know. She sat down heavily in one of the chairs, gripping the edge. She needed to be strong for them. But how could she be strong for them when she felt so shaky inside? I just received a message from someone I used to know. It might change things. Can't you just ignore it? Emily proposed, her voice laced with a hint of desperation. You don't have to respond if it's not good. Martha considered that for a moment. True, but some people have a way of weaving into the fabric of our lives, even when we try to forget them. Emily's eyes were wide. What are you going to do? But Martha wasn't sure. She felt a pull, a responsibility to the past. Yet she also wanted to hold tight to the present, the laughter, the warmth, the sweet moments of being all together again. As the seconds stretched between them, the weight of her indecision felt palpable. "I need some time," she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. "I just need to think." Mark nodded slowly. "Just remember, whatever choice you make, we're here for you. Always." His words hung in the air, a reminder of the strength their bond provided. Yet Martha felt a shadow creeping in. The question loomed larger than ever in her mind: what consequences would her decision bring? Before she could spiral deeper into the unknown, another message dinged on her phone, yanking her focus back to the present. She glanced down, heart racing again. Would this make things clearer, or only add to the chaos? As she prepared to read once more, uncertainty gripped her. Could she really face both her past and future? What new storm was about to break in her life? Martha stared at her phone, the screen illuminating her face in the dim kitchen light. The second message was from David again, a simple question: "Can we talk tonight?" She felt the weight of those words settle heavily in her chest. Her mind raced. What would they even talk about? Old memories that wrapped around her heart like vines? The happy moments, the bitter arguments, the love that had once ignited a fire in her soul? The scent of fresh coffee from the pot nearby was a comforting reminder of the present, yet it felt inadequate against the storm brewing within her. "Mom." Emily's worried tone drew her back. She turned, forcing a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You've been staring at that phone forever. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, honey," Martha said, her voice weak. "Just thinking." Mark leaned against the doorframe, arms folded, clear concern etched across his face. "You need to talk to us about this, whatever it is. We're here." She wanted to tell them everything: the laughter, the adventures, the dark moments. Instead, all she could muster was a nod. The truth was, turning back to David felt like stepping into a landmine, and she didn't want to drag her family through the mess that came with it. With a shaky breath, she replied to David's message, her fingers dancing over the screen. "What time?" After pressing send, she felt relief and dread wash over her in equal measures. David had been a huge part of her life, but life had swept her into a different direction. What if he and T changed? "What did he say?" Mark pressed gently. "Just asking to talk tonight." She kept her voice steady, avoiding their gaze. "Mom, it sounds important," Emily said, concern knitting her brow. "What if he needs you?" That thought shook Martha to her core. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was also about protecting her family. "I don't know if talking is a good idea," she admitted. "It could open old wounds." "Honestly, you might need closure," Mark said slowly. "For both of you. But we can't make that decision for you." She stared down at her hands, twisted together in her lap. Closure felt like a sweet mirage, one she had chased for years but could never quite reach. Butterflies danced in her stomach, and a few tears threatened to spill over. Then the power of Mark's words hit her. Whatever she felt about the past, she owed it to herself to face it. "What if I regret not seeing him?" She whispered more to herself than anyone. Emily shifted closer, her presence warm and grounding. "You've built a new life, Mom. Whatever happens, we'll support you. Just be honest with us and yourself." Martha took a deep breath, her heart racing relentlessly. David was calling her, asking for a conversation, and once upon a time, that voice had filled her life with music. "Okay," she said finally, her resolve building. "I'll meet him." The decision settled like a heavy blanket around her. Mark nodded, offering a quiet smile, while Emily squeezed her hand. It was hard to let that old chapter resurface, but maybe it was time to set things right. Maybe the conversation would bring healing rather than hurt. As she prepared for the evening ahead, Martha couldn't shake the anxiety thrumming beneath her skin. The past loomed large, ready to burst back into her life. But would it be the closure she needed, or would it unravel everything she had worked so hard to mend? The clock ticked loudly in the background, and as the hour approached for the meeting, Martha felt the storm rise within her once more. What secrets would David reveal, and how would the truth reshape her family and her future? Martha sat at the kitchen table, the clock ticking like a drumbeat in her ears. The minutes crawled by, stretching in eternal darkness infused with dread and anticipation. She grasped her coffee cup, the warmth radiating through her fingers, but it did little to soothe the chill creeping up her spine. The living room felt distant, the laughter of Mark and Emily filtering in like echoes of a happier time. An uncomfortable knot formed in her stomach. She thought of David's face, the way he used to light up a room, the warmth of his embrace, the pain of their parting. Would he still have that same smile? A soft knock interrupted her thoughts, and Mark stepped in, his expression a blend of concern and encouragement. "Do you want to talk before you go?" Martha sighed, realizing that she needed to clear her mind. What if he hasn't changed, Mark? What if he is still the same person I left? Or he could be different. We all are, right? His voice held a steadiness she needed. But whatever happens, remember, it's okay to feel what you feel. It's a part of healing. Healing. The word floated between them, and for a moment, Martha felt the weight of her past slip a little. "I'm scared," she admitted, a raw honesty slipping past her defenses. "Of course you are. But facing it is the bravest thing you can do," he said, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You've built a good life, Mom." That one tea disappeared because of a conversation. She nodded, gratitude warming her heart. The world had shifted under her feet many times, yet she consistently found her way back to solid ground. Perhaps tonight was just another step in her journey. The doorbell chimed, cutting through the anticipation like a sharp knife. Martha's heart thundered in her chest as she stood, glancing at her reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman staring back was no longer the girl madly in love, haunted by fear and doubt. She could feel the strength in her spirit, the lessons she'd learned, and the resilience she'd built. Taking a deep breath, she opened the door to find David standing there. Time had wrapped around him like a cloak and softened his features. His hair, once dark as night, had started to glint silver under the porch light. The moment their eyes met, the past surged forward like a tidal wave, knocking the air from her lungs. "Hey, Martha," he said, his voice thick with hesitation. "Hey." The word felt heavy, loaded with all the unsaid thoughts swirling in the air between them. He stepped forward, and for a moment, she was transported back, feeling the warmth of familiarity mixed with the chill of uncertainty. It's been a while," he stammered. "Yes, it has." She motioned for him to come in, standing aside, her heart racing like a runaway train. As he settled at the table, she drank in the details, the way he chewed his lip, still lost in thought, the slight wrinkle at the corner of his eyes when he looked her way. It was a dance of old and new, and they both felt it. So he began, breaking through the silence that thickened with each passing second. "I wanted to talk about everything." The gravity of those words settled heavily in the room, and she felt the breath hitch in her throat. This was her chance, an open door to confront the memories that had shaped her. But what if, instead of healing, it unleashed the very chaos she had worked to avoid? What revelation awaited them? And would it pull her family closer together or tear the fragile threads apart? David's eyes searched hers, as if he were trying to read a book that had long been closed. The air between them grew thick with unspoken words, memories woven into the fabric of silence. Martha could feel her heart racing, a wild bird trapped in her chest, eager to break free, yet terrified of what lay beyond the door of her past. "I've thought about this moment a lot," David finally admitted, his voice low. About why things ended the way they did." There was a softness in his tone that tugged at her heart, pulling her closer to the warmth of their shared history. "Me too," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Every day?" He ran a hand through his silver hair, a gesture that felt achingly familiar. "I never wanted to hurt you, Martha. I didn't know how to be who you needed me to be." "So much changed," she replied, the weight of her words resting heavily on her shoulders. "I thought I could move on. That time would heal everything. But it doesn't, does it?" His eyes glistened with a recognition of shared grief. "Time can create distance, but it can't take away the feelings." Martha nodded, her heart softening as the past played like a film in her mind. That first kiss, their laughter echoing through the halls of their home, dreams woven together, only to unravel under the pressure of realities they couldn't face. "Do you remember that summer by the lake?" she asked, her voice thickening with nostalgia. David smiled, that same old smile that made her heart flutter. "Of course I do. You insisted on swimming even when I said it was too cold. It was refreshing," she chuckled, the sound mixed with a hint of sorrow. "And you said I was stubborn." "Just a little," he teased gently. Then his expression turned serious. "I miss those days, Martha. They were the best." His words ignited a spark of hope in her. Maybe they could find a way back to that brightness, or at least attempt to fix the fractures. So where do we go from here? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, a delicate question hanging between them like a thread. I want to fix this, he said, leaning forward, intensity in his gaze. I want to figure out how we can coexist in this new world we've built, how we can share the past, but not let it consume us. The room felt electric with the possibility. Martha sat on the edge of her chair, heart pounding. But what if it's too late? We've both changed, and I don't want to fall back into old patterns. Neither do I, he reassured her. But maybe we can take it one step at a time? She bit her lip, wrestling with fear and hope, both pulling her in different directions. They were like two strangers bound by what used to be, questioning whether that foundation could hold against the weight of the life they now lived. Just then, Mark's voice broke the tension as he called from the other room. Mom? Emily and I are getting snacks. Do you need anything? The moment shattered like glass, reality crashing in. Martha's heart sank as the distractions of her present pierced the solemn atmosphere. How would she explain all of this to her kids? How could she allow them to see David again after everything? I will talk more later, she said quickly, standing up. I need to just. David reached for her hand, and she froze at the connection, sparks dancing between their fingertips. No matter what happens next, just remember I know, she interrupted, a surge of warmth sparking courage within her. I won't forget. As she pulled away to call her son into the room, she felt his gaze on her back, heavy with hope and uncertainty. The path forward was murky, filled with unknowns that loomed ahead, but that fleeting moment, that touch, felt like a whisper of something worth fighting for. The door had opened, but would they step through it together? Or would fear pull them back into the shadows once more? Mark's cheerful voice bounced off the walls as he entered the room, dragging Emily in behind him, their shared excitement contagious. He caught the tension hanging in the air, a thick fog of unspoken emotions, and his brows furrowed slightly. What is going on, Mom? Martha forced a smile, quickly masking the whirlwind of feelings swirling inside her. Just an old friend, she replied, her voice light, but her insides twisted with uncertainty. Emily, always the observant one, noticed something wasn't right. She looked from Martha to David, then back again. Old friend? You mean like a high school friend? Something like that, David interjected, his voice smooth, but Martha could see the flicker of nervousness in his eyes. Cool. Can I have $1 for snacks? Mark piped up, breaking the weighty silence. Martha nodded absent-mindedly, her thoughts still entwined with David. She ruffled through her wallet, trying to shake off the emotional aftershocks of their conversation. Here you go. Just be careful with the money, she said, handing over a bill. As the kids rushed off to the kitchen, Martha felt the room constrict around her, leaving her with David, their shared history still buzzing in the air. What if they wanted to know about us? She asked, crossing her arms defensively. Then we tell them the truth, he said softly, his eyes earnest. But maybe a simpler version. One they can understand. She took a deep breath. Could she really navigate this with them? Was it fair to bring David back into their lives, to force them to grapple with the complexities of adult emotions? The laughter from the kitchen echoed through the hallway, a stark reminder of what was at stake. Martha's heart twisted at the thought of her children being caught in the crossfire of their unresolved past. They've been through so much already. Do I really want to put them through this again? Maybe it's not about putting them through anything, David countered gently. Maybe it's about showing them what love looks like, even when it's complicated. His words resonated, hanging in the air like a lifeboat thrown into stormy waters. She had been so focused on the fear of dragging her children into the uncertain waters of their shared past that she hadn't considered the possibility of teaching them resilience, love, and healing. As the laughter faded to whispers, the kitchen door swung open again, and Mark burst in with a pack of chips, crumbs trailing behind him like carefree joy. Can we watch a movie? He asked, his eyes sparkling with the innocence of childhood. Martha glanced at David. In that brief moment, overwhelmed by decisions, she could see in his eyes that he was just as lost, yet deep down, a flicker of something hopeful remained. Let us do it, she said, her voice firmer now, filled with a new determination. Let them know you're back in my life. David's face lit up, gratitude flooding his expression. Are you sure? As sure as I can be right now, she replied, the warmth of courage blooming within her chest. But let us take it slow. One step at a time, right? He nodded, and Martha felt a mutual understanding bridge the gaps between them once more. As they entered the kitchen together, laughter bubbling back to life. Everything felt lighter, yet the uncertainty lurked just beneath the surface. Would the kids embrace this new reality? Would David's presence bring them closer, or would it only complicate things further? Martha paused, heart racing at the thought. This was only the beginning, and she could feel the defining moments ahead shaping their futures. But for now, sitting on the edge of newfound hope, she took a deep breath and let the laughter surround her, wondering what the next step would demand of them all. Mark dashed back into the room, chips now almost half gone, his eyes alight with eagerness. Can we pick a funny movie? Like that one with the talking dog? He asked, spinning around in excitement, the energy swirling in the room like a soft breeze. Emily, still standing next to the pantry, crossed her arms. We always watch your movies. Maybe we should pick something new? Oh, come on, Emmy, Mark whined, sticking out his bottom lip. Just this once. Martha watched her kids, a warm tenderness flooding her heart. The way they bickered and laughed reminded her of simpler times, when life didn't come tangled with adult emotions. She could feel David standing beside her, his presence an anchor amidst her swirling feelings. All right, let us compromise, she suggested, stepping forward. How about we pick a movie that has both fun and something we can all learn from? Mark's face brightened. Like a dog that goes on an adventure? Exactly, David chimed in, a soft smile breaking across his face. For a fleeting moment, the heavy history held between them drifted out of focus. They were a family again, if only for an evening. As they settled onto the couch, David nestled into the corner, the kids sprawling out on either side. The laughter returned, filled with bright flashes of joy, blossoming within the room like a vibrant bouquet. Martha's heart lightened, if only for a brief moment, as the familiar warmth of togetherness surrounded her, but as the opening credits rolled, a weight settled back into her chest. The kids were engaging in banter about who would be the victor in a snowball fight. Their laughter echoed, a constant reminder of the innocence she wanted to preserve, yet it was tinged by the reality that loomed ahead. Martha. David's voice cut through her swirling thoughts, pulling her back. She turned to him, and for a moment, the noise from the screen faded. We need to talk, he said quietly. Now, she whispered back, glancing towards the kids, their innocent chatter floating like notes in the air. Not now, he assured, but soon, when they're not around. There was a flicker of understanding between them, something reminiscent of the uncharted landscapes they once navigated together. I know, she nodded, feeling the twinge of anxiety flicker beneath her skin. What did this mean? What would it mean for her children, the lives they were building together? Before she could spiral, Emily's voice broke in. Mom, can you help me find the remote? Sure, sweetheart. Martha forced herself back into the moment, laughing lightly as she helped Emily search under the cushions. It became an amusing little game, one that shrouded their delicate reality in a layer of playful distraction. Yet, the nagging thought lingered in her mind. When would they really have the conversation? The movie unfolded, filled with moments that evoked laughter, the delightful mischief of animated characters creating a temporary escape. But faded glances between Martha and David whispered of conversations still to come, the intricate tapestry of their past woven through the laughter of the night. Halfway through the film, David took the opportunity to lean closer to Martha, whispering, about what I said earlier, it doesn't have to be complicated. We can keep it simple. Can we? She replied softly, her heart skipping a beat. Because I want to protect them, I want us to do this right. They'll surprise you, he said, his voice carrying the calm assurance she needed. Just like you surprised me. With her heart swelling, Martha turned back to the laughter-filled scene unfolding on the screen, but the laughter also masked her tight reality. Would they really surprise her? And still, the question lingered. What would happen when they finally tackled the conversations lingering in the edges of this night? As the credits began to roll, Martha felt a calm before the inevitable storm, knowing the heart of the matter wasn't far behind. What new revelations awaited them, just out of sight? As the credits rolled, the laughter subsided, giving way to a quiet that felt heavy with anticipation. Martha took a deep breath, gathering herself as the kids began to discuss their favorite parts of the movie. Their energy was infectious, but within her, an emotional storm brewed, filled with uncertainties and potential heartaches. "Did you see that dog?" Mark exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. "He was crazy. He just kept running around." "Yeah, and he saved the day," Emily chirped in, her voice filled with wonder. "Maybe we should get a dog, too." Their innocent banter warmed Martha's heart, but deep down, the clock was ticking, demanding she face the truths that hadn't been addressed. David, still seated close, met her gaze. Those eyes, part familiarity, part mystery, shimmered with the weight of unspoken words. She glanced at the children, unsure how to thread the needle between the past and the future. "Martha, I appreciate you letting me be here tonight," David said, his voice low yet firm. "But like I said, we need to talk. I don't want to keep secrets from them. You deserve to be honest about what happened and where we go from here." Her stomach twisted. Could she bear to dredge up the past? Yet, she understood what he meant. Every moment she hid from her children was a ghost haunting their newfound joy. After all, she didn't want to hold on to the shadows of yesterday when their present was so bright. Emily's laughter broke her reverie. "Mom, can we play a game next? Or do something fun?" "Absolutely," Martha replied, smiling through the tension. "Let me clean up the snacks first." As she stood, hands clasped in front of her, determination surged. The past would have to be part of the discussion. It wouldn't be easy, but she felt it was essential for their futures. Taking a deep breath, she nodded at David. "You're right. I think the kids should know. It's time we talk about, well, us." Mark noticed their serious expressions. "What is going on?" he asked, his curiosity piqued, shifting to lean against Emily. "It's nothing to worry about," Martha reassured them gently. "Just something from my past that has resurfaced. An old friend. We're trying to figure things out together." Emily's eyes widened slightly, instincts kicking in. "Is he someone we know?" "No, honey, he is someone I knew a long time ago," Martha replied carefully, choosing her words like fragile glass. "But it's complicated. I want you both to understand." "Does it mean you'll be sad again?" Mark asked, a tinge of worry creeping into his voice. Martha felt a pang in her heart. "No, love, I hope not. I want to make things better. We're family, and we'll figure this out as one." Emily looked between her mother and David, trying to make sense of the puzzle pieces. "Can we be friends with him too?" "Yes, if that's what you want," David said, his voice smooth and oddly reassuring. "I'd like to get to know you all, just like you're getting to know me again." Martha's heart steadied, seeing David's sincerity shining through. Maybe sharing their journey meant making room for connection instead of hurt. "All right then," she announced, her voice steady but laced with the tremors of uncertainty. "Let us start with dinner tomorrow. All of us. I want to cook for you, and I want you all to meet David. We'll give it a fresh start, together." The kids exchanged excited glances, and she could see the spark of curiosity alight in their eyes. "Can we have dessert afterward?" Mark asked, mischief lighting his features. "Absolutely," Martha replied, a smile breaking loose. "You bring the laughter, I'll bring the sweets." As they wrapped up the evening filled with laughter and warmth, Martha felt the heaviness lifting. The storm wasn't gone, but it was under control, and the runway ahead looked a little less daunting. Later, as they settled down for bed, her heart hummed with possibility. Tomorrow would be a chance to weave the past with the present, a moment to plant seeds of understanding and healing. With a renewed sense of purpose filling her, Martha whispered a silent promise to the universe. This time, she wouldn't shy away from her truths. She would embrace them because love didn't always unfold beautifully. It was messy, tangled, and real. But ultimately, even the messiest of love stories could find their way home. Just then, her phone buzzed once more. It was another message from David. "Thank you for the chance, Martha. Whatever happens, I'm glad I'm here." Martha felt the warmth of hope cascading over her like sunlight breaking through a cloudy day. It was the possibility of a new layer to their lives, something worth pursuing, even amidst the fear. "Tomorrow, then," she whispered to herself, closing her eyes and letting the possibilities swirl around her as she slipped into sleep. And for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to embrace the unknown. Now, dear friends, if you felt even a twinge of connection to Martha's journey, this is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help spread the inspiration. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. It's important to hear from you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting this channel through these actions.